All right, good afternoon. I think my stream should be working now. I was just setting up on my OBS, like my window, so everything's like visible. And today what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over, last time when I revealed my score, I only went over the ones that I got wrong, the 4 questions that I got wrong. And that might be honestly enough for everybody. That might be enough for people who got those ones wrong, I mean. But in this stream today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sort of overview the entire test, at least the reading and writing sections, and basically explain as much as I think needs explanation, just based on my gut feeling of what people are gonna struggle with and what they're not gonna struggle with. I did take this test like 2-3 weeks ago. So because I took it a little over 2 weeks ago, I'm gonna half remember the test and half not really. So this would not be like some of my other streams where I actually just like literally streamed myself taking the QAS for the first time. This will be more of a review and explanation heavy stream, so it'll be my first time doing this, and I'll see how it feels personally, right? I'll see how it works for me, but then I'll also invite whatever opinions you have to see what I can do to kind of tweak this and make this a little better without making it overly difficult for me. All right. So I was actually looking on YouTube for, a review of the SAT March, and no one's put it up yet. Probably because other YouTubers tend to spend a lot more time on on editing their stuff, and I basically just stream whatever the heck I see. But I also want to, I'm a little jumpy today. That's kind of crazy. But anyway, so what I wanted to say about that was just that, today I'm just it looks like I'll be the first one, basically, since I'm just going to stream my thoughts on this. If there's any other YouTuber that kind of looks through this stuff, I'm kind of curious what your process is as well. What do you guys do? What do you guys do as you're putting these things together? Now, I think the other thing to kind of be looking at is, I was skimming this yesterday to kind of get a sense of the questions that people were struggling with. So I did see a bunch of writing questions. I didn't see a lot of reading questions yesterday when I was skimming, but basically, if you scroll far down, where you get down to not 7 days ago, okay, or but closer to 17 days ago, then yeah, you start seeing questions like this. Which is referring to, this is probably a math question, and I was just sort of skimming this to kind of get a sense of what people were struggling with. But if you are watching this right now, you can literally just tell me the questions that you struggled with, and I will kind of pick it up along the way. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the literature passage, which is the first one, and I think a lot of people mentioned that the literature one was kind of tough for them, but it wasn't tough for me at all, at least from what I remember. So I think it should be pretty easy to kind of to cover what the issues were. All right, so I'm about to get started now. Let's get into QAS. Here we go. Test questions. All right, let me just make sure that this is actually, how visible is this for you guys? It's pretty legible, right? But there's this awkward thing where the question kind of gets cut out. Let me just see how that looks on some of the other, okay, yeah, it gets cut out. So here's what I'll do. Let me just make sure that the screen is usable. I'm just gonna put, kind of awkward, but yeah. You know what? Man, it's so ghetto. I can't make this any prettier. I mean, I guess you know what I'll do. I was being lazy because I didn't want to change the dimensions of my face, but my face is not that important. I'll put it. I forgot that there's 2 cameras. Okay, I'm gonna put this face down here. Okay, so that should work. It's kind of awkward looking, honestly, but whatever. Just deal with it. Okay, so this should make it. This probably should this should not run into any problems, right? This should be pretty much legible the whole time. Yeah. Okay, so I'm not in the best of conditions today. I'm not in the best of conditions today. So if I'm a little inarticulate, I apologize in advance. This week's just been a little rough because with spring break starting, I didn't really have a weekend. I've been teaching like without a single day of break, so I'm a little out of it, honestly. I apologize, but I just want to get this out there and keep moving on so that we can start getting prepared for the May SAT. All right, so the cat's table. Let's go. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna actually just expand this all the way out. There we go. That looks way better. It's even more legible. Here, let me actually put this tab out of the way a little bit. Okay. Ondatye, cat's table. Reflects on his journey as a young boy traveling by ship from Ceylon to England. They're friends. Okay. So I'm bad with names. I would definitely circle R and C, Remagen and Cassius. Okay. And he's a young boy, so I'm going to remember that. So I'm basically imagining 3 boys, right? I'm imagining 3 boys at this point. And when I read this, should I reread this? I'm actually debating this right now. What I'll say is that for me, it's more natural to reread this because what'll happen is if I go straight to the questions, what'll probably happen is I'll just get confused. I'll be struggling to remember things. So that'll just be more of an awkward experience. So I'm going to reread this. But I'm just not going to make that much commentary on how I read this because I think we can save that kind of stuff for future content. So let me just reread this and you guys can read along to kind of remind yourselves what happened. So I'm going to be briefly summarizing. Okay, 3 boys, narrator, 50s, England from Sri Lanka. Okay. Fonseca, see, 4th character suddenly. He was traveling to be a teacher. I would visit him every few days. Passages. Ooh, zooming in doesn't really give me a proper... Does that? Yeah, that's easier. Okay, there we go. He's a very scholarly guy, literary guy. I didn't know anything, but he was welcoming, gave interesting stories, and then even teasing him with stories, kind of goading him to read these books. And I'm stalking the ship with Ramadan and Cassius, and I tried to finish off the story in my own head, talking with them, maybe just in his own head. This Mr. Fonseca, he's a gracious guy, quiet, kind of a private kind of person. He's he's a little reclusive. He just, he stays to himself. He's not a super outgoing type of person. Some bottled Kelani River water. Let me just jump down to the how do I look at the, yeah, it's from the river, Sri Lanka, and this is memorabilia, right? Let me just double check. Where are we? Kind of awkward. Okay, yeah. So that's just memorabilia. His time capsule, right? It's sort of he's stuck in time back at home for the moment. When the day is dull, he would visit, and the anonymity went deepest. I actually didn't remember. I don't remember this when I first read it. And the curl of a rhyme was something new. Right, so he's interested in these stories. He had lived in Colombo all his life, and this is a city in Sri Lanka. Yeah. Oof, something's awkward here. Okay. It's a window within a window, which is making this super awkward to navigate. All right, all right, there we go. And then let's go back to Colombo. And his manner and accent were product. Okay. So this is like, it's kind of contradictory, right? He's such a insular person, but he's so literate. He beguiled them as well. So he's actually effective. He's effective. He's not just beguiling the narrator, he's beguiling the other two boys who are being rambunctious on the ship. He'd gaze into a distance, quote lines, very academic, but also likable. Even though he's super academic, and kind of withdrawn, he's actually kind of likable. He's persuasive, even though he doesn't really come out. And also he's kind of contradictory because he's lived literally on that island his whole life. So he's just this interesting character. And he's peaceful. He's made peace with the fact that he's not going to make a lot of money. And this is an interesting little literary comment, but sure. He knows he's destined to be a teacher, and he's comfortable with that, Mr. Fonseca. Latin grammar could be a distinguishing sword. So I am aware of the pathos and irony that come with such a portrait. He must have, right? You get a lot of foreshadowing here now. Now there's a sense of foreboding. You can get this. Okay, so if you're a good reader, by this point, by line 48, you should already have a pretty much clear sense that we're portraying a sort of unique character. Okay, and you should know roughly his qualities. You don't have to remember every single detail about him, but you should know that roughly, he loves books, and he's actually pretty good at sharing his his enthusiasm for the books, with these kids. But he's also withdrawn, and he's also from an island background. Now you should know that. You should know that at 48 without looking at the questions literally on the first time that you read it. Okay, and if you're a good reader, at this point, 49 to 50, you should basically be predicting, oh, this story doesn't turn out so well for this guy. Okay, you might not know exactly how, but then especially over here, okay, by 50, 54, 55, you should be like, oh, it could be, he must have believed it would be a good life where his grammar could be, right? All these hypotheticals, but that's not actually what happens. This narrator is telling it from in retrospect. Okay, so you should know that if you want to improve your literature reading, and if you don't want to improve your literature reading, but you don't know what your weaknesses are, Ask yourself, did I already know that something bad was going to happen at line 55? At latest, you should know this. If you didn't know this, then your reading is not so bad. Okay, you have at least a basic literature reading ability. I wonder what happened to him. Time shift. Exactly. Now we're back to the present of the narrator. The narrator's older now, right? So now we're gonna get into the unspoken tragedy. Here we go. Every few years, I will look up references to him. He didn't keep in touch. You know, it's kind of that interesting, awkward thing where somebody influences you, but you never reach out to him. Came before us like knights, innocent knights on a more dangerous time. Okay, so this all again, we're foreboding. There's some sort of thing that happened, and it wasn't so good for Mr. Fonseca. Basically, the sort of implicit, if you have an understanding of like the immigrant experience, right? Immigrants aren't always welcome. I mean, basically as a rule, immigrants are not welcome in new countries. Okay, that's just a rule. And one of the things that you must understand about American self-conception, what Americans think about themselves. Okay, if you're trying to get the SAT and you're trying to get into an American school and you want to have some basic understanding of U.S. history and the U.S. self-conception. Okay, we are the nation with the Statue of Liberty where we welcome the masses, the huddled and poor. Okay. And we welcome the immigrant. But what is the actual history of immigrants, right? They go through discrimination, all that stuff. So this is background knowledge that you should basically have as an American student. And so when you think about it in terms of literature, whenever you have literature that's about an immigrant experience, okay, you should expect that that's part of the conflict. The part of the conflict is never being part of the society in which you find yourself, that you identify yourself with. And Mr. Fonseca is that first generation of explorers, knights, right? We had that innocent knight image, okay? He's the first generation, he's getting there, and you know what? He's gonna be slaughtered. He's gonna be torn apart. Okay, I mean, that's me, I'm exaggerating a little, but still, that's basically the idea that, you know, England is not gonna be too kind to Mr. Fonseca, even though Mr. Fonseca is this extremely erudite, extremely knowledgeable, extremely English person who has learned his Latin grammar while living in Ceylon. I would be amazing in the 1950s, right? It'd be amazing. But no matter how amazing you are in your country, you come to England, you come to the US or whatever, you're still gonna struggle. I'm just thinking about all these like Chinese engineers or doctors that come to America and just start out with like restaurants, you know, back in the day. I mean, not so much these days, but it's like, that's the kind of situation we're in. Here we go. I think what Mr. Fonseca at those English schools wearing his sweater to protect himself from the weather, right? Which, you know, I love this at a literary level. Now, this is too deep for the actual SAT, but if you're doing like the SAT, actually the SAT literature no longer exists, but if you're doing like AP Lit, for sure, like this is that kind of line that you really should be paying attention to here, because the sweater to protect himself from the English weather, there's a physical sweater to protect against physical weather, but from all the buildup, all the foreboding, all the foreshadowing about what bad thing happened to Mr. Fonseca, he's also wearing his sweater, okay, to protect himself from English metaphorical weather. Like, you know, what would that be, right? It's not just the weather, it's also, you know, the culture. Oh, and the word culture literally comes out in the next sentence. Yeah, maybe he came back. Maybe he went back home. And he couldn't teach. He couldn't find a job, maybe. So, maybe he's bad. Maybe, yeah. Maybe he was defeated. Okay, so that is the first passage. Here we go. I wonder if it's kind of awkward, man. I kind of wish the PDF had been uploaded. Here we go. The focus shifts from Oh, the answer doesn't really. It's kind of funky, but okay. The focus shifts from. Let me predict. The focus shifts from. Oh, right. There was a huge setting shift. The focus shifts from an episode in the past to a sort of present reflections on, like present musings on what happened to that person. Okay, so that's B. Can I see the answer? Okay, I will have to. Maybe I will have to do it like this. And then here, if I do, oh, dude, what's going on? It's so janky doing this. Okay. What I'm doing right now is I'm pulling up the answers in two tabs. Sorry, the questions here and the answers here, so I can like go back and forth. Okay. Oh, it says view answer over here. How come I didn't see that the first one? Oh, okay. Well, that was completely unnecessary. So, the narrative indicates that his acquaintance with Mr. Fonseca influenced him because Mr. Fonseca. Because Mr. Fonseca kind of had an infectious enthusiasm with books. Oh, just introduced him. Yeah, D. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. The narrative use of stalking in error. They were stalking the ship. Yeah. So it has the main effect of adventure in this case, right? Characterizing the right. So B. Hang on. At this moment, no one. Hang on. So I'm just trying to decide. Since no one's asking questions, I'm trying to decide whether I should explain anything that might be tricky. But for now, for time's sake, I will not. What I'll do is I'll state my prediction out loud, and I think it should be pretty clear how I got to that prediction. But if it's not clear, you guys can leave a comment below when you view this, and I can reply in the comments what the answers were. Like, I can further explain why the answer was the answer. Okay, so has the main effect of right. Yeah, because they're sort of lurking around. Moving on. The second paragraph, lines 14 through 19, mainly serve to. Let's look at 14 to 19. I'll characterize him as a sort of private person. Yeah, so. Oh, hang on. Let's see. External and inner. So when he spoke, gestures, standing. Okay, D seems about right. Because let's eliminate A, B, C. Goals, and undermining a goal, wrong. Foreshadow the future, no. These don't foreshadow the future. And then, because him being like a I see why B would be a little confusing for people. That's the wrong use of the word foreshadow. So that's not how foreshadowing works. So that would be wrong. This is actually literally just telling you what will happen. That's not the same as foreshadowing. Okay, so C, personal information about a character explains the internal conflict. No, there's no internal conflict. So yeah. D. The external is the talking and the standing and the gesturing, right? And then the internal is him being private. When he was bored. Yeah, there was that's A. So when he was bored, I'll tell you where that's from. I would visit that room if the day was dull. Yeah. feel like I'm having technical problems, but whatever. Contradiction. Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. You should be thinking this is a unique character. So what's unique about him? You know, and he's unique because he's an island person who knows nothing, who has never traveled around the world, as far as we can tell. Yeah, because he's lived there his whole life, but he knows so much about English literature. Yeah, that's C. Let me actually just find it. It's kind of like down here. Where's Sri Lanka? Oh, he had lived in Colombo his whole life, 29. So, yep. Beep beep. There we go. And literary classics would enable him, like it would be his sword. It would be a sword, right? We had that sword, and then later on that knight metaphor extension. So here's where's the sword? Okay. Let me find it first. Okay, here. He must have believed. Right. He has all of these. He has all these books, and he has this like Latin grammar. So these together, kind of. This refers to his knowledge of literary classics. Okay, his Latin grammar and his like editions of the classics. Okay, and that would distinguish him. That would give him, some sort of respect. Oh, there we go. So that would be B. Oh, is that? Something feels like really buggy about this page, but I can't tell what it is. Anyway, I'm trying to think. Some kids might. I feel like some of you guys might feel like the word knowledge isn't supported by the Fox editions and his Latin grammar, but it's like of course he knows a lot. I mean, that's the whole focus of the first couple paragraphs. I think you would only struggle with the word knowledge here. Okay, his knowledge. You would only doubt this knowledge here if you didn't read the passage first, and you were doing this like from question to passage and question to passage, because he knows a lot, and these are sort of kind of standing in, as symbols of how much he knows. So it's sort of indisputable. Yeah. So I actually literally just found this. I'm just going to show the answer. So C, right, the sword, exactly. The equivalent of a bottle of river water, he's suggesting that the literature he memorized will be a sort of memorabilia of England when he presumably went back to India. Okay. Right, so a memento, it's a better word than memorabilia. Memorabilia has more of a festival, sort of like a yeah, a memento, that's a better word than what I was thinking. A. All right, and that is the first passage. Passage two, let's go. I am not in the best condition today. I might have to stop after like 2 or 3 passages because I can tell my head's throbbing a little bit. So I'm gonna apologize in advance. I think I will stop. I will have to. I am like 95% sure I'm gonna have to cut this off midway through. I'm gonna go as far as I can, but I don't want to just like bumble through this test, like struggling to explain. I would rather come back and explain it when I'm more clear-headed. So I'll do the best that I can, but And what I remember is that the second passage was not that hard, so it shouldn't be too scary for me. I think the third passage was a little harder, so we'll see how I feel at the third passage. All right, here we go. Well, okay. Glowing reviews aren't always the most persuasive. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you know what? One thing I will give one tip though. I want to avoid giving too many tips during this particular stream, but when you read the blurb, if you don't like go, oh, right, that's what we're talking about. If you don't have that like click, then you're rushing too much. Okay, you should read the blurb and then you should have a click because you're imagining what we're talking about and what kind of passage, right? What kind of essay might come out, right? So now when I just read this sort of like zoning out, you know, Daniela Kupor, Zachary Tormala reviews, glowing, you know, when I'm sort of in the sort of half awake state, which happens all the time in real test taking, you know, I don't really know what I'm expecting from this passage, but then it clicks. Oh, I like turn on. I'm like, oh, right, glowing reviews, not persuasive. That makes sense to me because I can imagine what kind of essay will come out. Something like reviews of products, right? Because we're talking about business school, so we're talking about probably like products or like services. Reviews of products, when they're exaggeratedly positive, they actually have a contrary effect because it feels, and here's my prediction, is my guess, okay, because it's less believable. Okay, that's all. So that's my quick little intuitive aha, and then I move on. And that definitely makes my reading way faster because now I know what I'm looking for. Let's go. Reviews can play a big role, but what makes a review persuasive? Certainly bad reviews is not good, but good reviews can be bad too. Yeah, this is what I predicted. They're more thoughtful if they're not like the default, okay? The most common review seems a little thoughtless. So you want to have a review that's like deviating from the norm a little bit because you want to seem more thoughtful if you want to have more effective reviews. Granola bar, pre-selected 10-star. So that's the default. Less than 10 stars could change the rating. We had a single review that we read, okay, that the participants read, that gave either 10 or 8, so default or not default. And then we gave them, hey, would you rather have money or a free granola bar? Okay, would you rather have like $3 or a $3 granola bar? People who viewed the 8-star review were actually more likely. Cool, yeah. That's a funny and cool little experiment. Excuse me. Oh, wow. Not only were they more persuasive, they're also more helpful. So here, for me, at this very moment, I would be a little bit like, what is the difference between persuasive and helpful? And then I'd be like, oh, I guess like they would rate it helpful because that's what they do in like Amazon. You know, you like, was this review helpful? And then you hit that thumbs up. Is that what we're talking about? And that would be my prediction, and I move on. Okay, you should have that little moment. You're like, and you should make a prediction and you move on. You shouldn't just you shouldn't just steamroll it. I don't understand, but I'm going to just like look at all the words and just like let the words just sort of slap my eyeball, right? And then just like and hopefully out of all the words that slap my eyeball, like 5% of them like percolate into my brain. That's not the way you should be reading, okay? You should be reading with like this idea that like I want to understand because I'm going to assume this is an interesting thing, and what is interesting about this, right? And you should be kind of processing it as you go. rated the reviews as helpful. So this is just like a very simple, like, side comment really to the first experiment. I don't find this very interesting at all. Okay. Extreme reviews regain the... See, this is more interesting. Okay, so extreme, like, so 10 out of 10 reviews regain their persuasiveness if the reviews are long, which is amazing. Now, I don't think we have to, like, I don't think once I read that first sentence, you know, I would have the question, and then I would have the answer, and then I'd be able to read the rest of this paragraph pretty quickly. Okay, no difference between 4 or 5 star ratings when they're both long. Okay, when they're both long. Okay, wow, interesting shift. Now we're not shifting, now we're not focusing on, now we're no longer focusing on like what the reviews are. Now we're focusing on what the consumers are thinking, okay? And they're unaware. So we actually have like 4 experiments that we talk about. Okay, the second one feels kind of like an add-on to the first one, but anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, hang on, where are we? They're unaware. In another study, we found that consumers want to persuade another shopper to make that when they want to persuade, they will often leave the highest possible rating, even though this is not as persuasive. Okay, they're actually shooting themselves in the foot, right? To use that idiom. So, oh right, I saw this yesterday. Yeah, this is messed up. Like I can't even. the QAS doesn't have the original table, so I don't know what the heck this is referring to. So this question I'll have to skip later on when it comes out. But let's look at this figure, which you can't even like maximize. I can't see it anyway. Just like. Squinting here. Here, I'll zoom in real quick. Percentage choosing the granola bar over... Oh, this is the first experiment. Yeah. So obviously the A-star review. Wow, man. From 55 to 75, that's a huge jump. That's like almost almost 50% improvement. When I say 50% improvement, I mean like 55 times 1.5, right? As in, 1 plus 50%. So that would be 82%, right? But to get to 72% or 75%, it'd be like what, like a 33. Yeah, it's like a 33% improvement. That's a huge jump. Oh my God, it's crazy difference. Okay, I'm going to zoom out. This is awkward. Okay, so question 11 now. Before I go straight into the questions, again, you should just basically have a pretty clear map, and I do right now. Anyone who is a good test taker, these first 2 passages were not very hard, okay? So anyone who's a good test taker should have a pretty clear map of this passage. And I already know, I can kind of roll it off the top of my head. Hey, extremely persuasive, not always very, extremely positive, not always persuasive. Also not rated helpful. Also, however, longer reviews restore persuasiveness. And ironically, consumers or customers, when they try to persuade, they actually shoot themselves in the foot. Okay? Those are the 4 sections. Top, middle bottom, bottom. Okay, I know exactly where everything is, and yes, this I can do it in real time because this is not a particularly high passage, and I think if you're trying to get an 800, you should be able to do this in real time as well. Okay, so I think when I took the real test, I was keeping track of time, but obviously I can't like take my notes because I was paying attention to the clock, but I think I spent only like 22 minutes on the first 2 passages. Okay, 22. And normally you have to, what, 26, something like that. You would have 13 minutes per passage, right? I think I only spent 22 minutes on the first 2 passages, maybe 21 minutes. I don't really 100% remember anymore. It's been 2 weeks, but something like that, okay? All right, questions. 11. Overall structure. Experimental results, and then practical. Nope. Question accepted. Hang on, let me just give my prediction. I just realized I didn't give my prediction. The prediction is this, okay? Overall structure of the passage, they provide 3 examples about studies and 1 example about people. Okay, so that's just, okay, D is even more general than that, but it's D. Moving on. Primarily interested in investigating whether extremely positive reviews were persuasive. In deception. Nope. Oh, this is not primarily though. In what circumstances? Okay. This is interesting. It's interesting, okay? Because it's kind of stated in the circuitous way where logically you have to kind of like, it's almost like a double negative. So I'm going to come back to that. That's almost certainly the right answer. Let's go back. Oh, yeah. It has to be the right answers because it's just from process elimination. In what circumstances might positive reviews actually not be persuasive is literally the same thing as are overly positive, are extremely positive reviews less persuasive. It's just kind of stated in this sort of interesting formulation. So let's see. But it's the same idea. Why do I have to click this twice for it to work? It's very confusing and very unintuitive. This website is not optimized for Chrome. Man, this is so annoying. Okay, no, I'm not gonna look into it. Whatever. As used in conform to. Where is the conform to? I guess I should just look it up. Conform. Okay, here we go. That follow the default that correspond to, yeah, so it's B. When writing product reviews, they tend not to draw from their own experiences. That's the very bottom, and it has something to do with even when they know that this is the default. Okay. Or then even when they find themselves, okay, so the line numbers aren't even here, so that's kind of awkward, but, oh, I see, you just click on that. So is it 52? Or is it 59? I see, I remember this. I remember that they force you to choose between C and D. And here you're supposed to be focusing on tending not to draw from their experiences. So here's the question, okay? Knowing that something is the default, is that from their experience? Or is they themselves finding such endorsements to be more specific, is that from their experience? Okay, it should be pretty clear now what the right answer is. It's D. Click once, click twice. Oh, dude, why do I have to click twice? That's so annoying. It makes me feel like my computer is lagging. Dude, College Board, please, if you're watching this, fix this. 15. This sentence mainly serves to, so let's look at 4041. In a follow-up study, okay, yeah, this addresses a potential concern. This addresses a potential concern, or it qualifies the original claim. You know, so you can say it a couple different ways. Okay. Oh, this is a very interesting. Determining the limits It's basically the same as qualifying. Okay, it's the same idea, but they are stating it in a different way. So if you found this hard to answer, it's just because you probably you were not parsing the words and their meaning, okay, to the words that you're more used to. Okay, so this is one area that you guys should also be working on, just like understanding what the question is saying and being able to rephrase it in your, like, usually we want to predict the right answer and then find the one that matches. But sometimes, even though you predict the right answer, you can't find the one that matches because you misencoded or you didn't decode the answer choice correctly. If that's your problem, then you have to work on your sort of generic analytical vocabulary. And so for that, there's actually pretty good lists on vocabulary.com for that. So I think you can improve on that. But also just like going through a practice test and just like reading the the answer choices out loud, and not necessarily out loud, but reading them over again and then being like, I 100% understand every single word in these answer choices, you know, and not really quitting until you get them. I think that would be good. I'm kind of tongue-tied right now just because I am a little tired, like I said. So I'll just keep going with this passage, but I think this might be the last one. Line 49, 94. I'm being practically dyslexic at this point. Status, where's status? Deviatory status, okay. So the review's deviation no longer, right, the nature? Okay, sure. That was hard to predict, honestly, but yeah, it must be nature. Okay, here we go. Based on the passage, what would the effect of the data reflected in figure 1 be if the first study, so we're making a hypothetical question about figure 1. Long reviews, right, because then there would be no real effect. There would be no effect. So the 10 star would increase to a similar as the 8 star. Yeah, B would be correct. They'd be similar, okay? Like visually, what you should imagine is when you are doing an 8 star or 10 star review, if they're both long, then the effect gets canceled out, which means this doesn't drop anymore, okay? This should be roughly the same level of persuasiveness. Now, if the SAT were being real tricky, what they could have asked, one of the answer choices could have been the 8 star would drop to the level of the 10 star, but that would make it sound like that would make it seem that the longer reviews are less persuasive, and that's not good. So you should be looking for the 10 star increasing rather than the 8 star decreasing. But in this case, the SAT could have made this a harder question by putting both of those in, but the SAT didn't, the College Board didn't, so kind of lucked out on that one. Right. We need to go to that third paragraph over here, or fourth paragraph, I mean. 40, somewhere between 40 and 40. Yeah, okay, so it's, all four of these. Let's find the thing about the 4 or 5 star. Right, no longer impacted. That's 48 through, yeah. So that is D. According to figure 2, the mean perception of the review's accuracy was lower than the mean perception of the review's thoughtfulness. Oh, you're right. I was just realizing why I was zoning out is because I couldn't even see figure 2. It's an easy question, so. But basically, okay, hang on. Even if I don't have the figure, I read the passage, so it should be pretty clear. And figure 2 is going to be a cleaning service. Oh, so it's not actually directly from the passage, but let's just assume it's completely congruent with the passage. Okay, then we would say the mean perception of the review's accuracy was lower than the mean perception of the review's thoughtfulness. Oh, accuracy and thoughtfulness are not ideas that we really. Okay, you actually need to look at the chart for this. So I'm just gonna get the answer. You know what? College Board, please show this chart to us. I can't see it, and I'm not gonna try to parse what these numbers are. So I'll move on. Abel, no problem, man. You're welcome to ask any questions you got. So now I'm looking at question 20. Question 20. Here we are. Which statement did the data figure? I'm just gonna look at the answer choices and make a guess. Because I can't see like I said, I can't actually see the figure, but A-star defaults to be accurate. That sounds like not textual. Yeah, this B seems like it would be right. C could be right from the passage. D could also. Okay, we need to see the actual chart, so it's hard to know. Yeah, I have to move on. Yeah, because I said B, C, or D could all be right. It really just depends on what the chart says, but we can't see what the figure says, so you gotta go. All right, so here's what I noticed, guys. I noticed that in the last 40 minutes or so that I've been. How long have I been streaming? Oh, it's been much longer than I expected. Okay, it's been an hour. What I realize is that from passage 1 to passage 2, just given how bad, like how not fresh and clean I feel right now, I just feel like I'm out of it. My thinking and my explaining is getting more clumsy as time passes, so I don't think it would be a really great stream, honestly, for me to move on to the even harder passages that come out in the rest of this test. So I'll have to resume this tomorrow. Okay, but for now, okay, if you're just tuning in, you'll know that I've covered the reading of the first passage and the second passage. Okay, so you can go and review that through the stream. And I will be doing the remainder of the EBRW, throughout this week. Hopefully I can just finish it all off tomorrow, but I'll be doing it starting tomorrow. Okay, I'll be picking it up starting tomorrow. I apologize for anybody who was sort of waiting on this. I'm sorry. I said this at the beginning of the stream, but I've just been I didn't have a weekend this week because of spring break, so I've been teaching throughout the weekend. So I'm just a little frazzled. I'm a little out of it. I'm not in the best of conditions. So please bear with me. I'm struggling a little. But all right. But I'll be getting back to this ASAP tomorrow. Peace out, guys. Good luck out there.